Check. Gentlemen, the second meeting of the Committee on Foreign Affairs of the Commission on Appointments in the second regular session of the 18th Congress is hereby called to order. The Secretary of the Commission is directed to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Your Honors. The Committee on Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Chairperson, Senator Panfilo M. Lacson is present. The other officers and members of this committee are Advincula, Almario, Alvarez Jr., Cagas, Chipeco Jr., Drilon,
Present, sir.
Ferrer the Fourth, Caron, Go,
Present.
Ontiveros,
Present.
Marcos, Noel, Pancho,
Present.
Pimentel the Third, Po, Ramirez Sato, Revilla Jr., Tolentino, Villanueva, Villar, Zamora,
Present.
Subiri.
With two members present in person, including the chair, and 8 members virtually present, with a total of 10, the existence of a quorum is hereby declared. The chair recognizes the vice chairperson of the Commission on Appointments. You're on mute, Congressman Zamora. Kindly unmute.
All right. Mr. Chairman, in the absence of the majority leader and the absence of the 2 assistant majority floor leaders, we would like to manifest that for today's meeting of the Committee on Foreign Affairs, we are designating Congressman Gavini Apol C. Pancho of the 2nd District of Bulacan as the acting majority floor leader. Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, we will call for the election of Congressman Pancho as permanent assistant majority floor leader in the Commission on Appointments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The manifestation of the Commission's Vice Chair is duly noted. The acting majority leader is recognized, Congressman Pancho. Kindly unmute. Nakamute po kayo, Congressman.
Mr. Chair, I move to dispense the reading of the minutes of the meeting held on September 16, 2020, and consider the same as approved.
Is there an objection? There being none, the reading of the minutes of the meeting held last October or September 16, 2020 is dispensed with, and the same is considered approved. Now, today the Committee on Foreign Affairs will deliberate on the nomination and the ad interim appointment of 2 officials of the Department of Foreign Affairs. Only the nominee, Mr. Ambassador Jose Eduardo Enciso Malayo III, is physically present in today's deliberation. The appointee, Mr. Ricarte P. Abejuela III, who is currently serving as consul at the Consulate General of the Republic of the Philippines in New York, USA, has a request for waiver of personal appearance and is now joining this hearing online. Are you there, Consul Abejuela III?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. So, Secretary Villacorta, kindly report on the status of the jurisdictional requirements and other relevant information relative to the nomination and ad interim appointment of two officials in the Department of Foreign Affairs in compliance with the new rules of the Commission and the new rules of the standing committees.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Your Honors. The nominee and appointee have complied with the submission of the necessary documentary requirements pursuant to Section 24, Chapter 6 of the new rules of the Commission. Their nomination and ad interim appointments were referred by the Commission Chairperson, Senate President Vicente C. Soto III, to the Committee on Foreign Affairs pursuant to Section 16, Chapter 5 of the new rules of the Commission. Likewise, their nomination and the ad interim appointment were published on various dates in two newspapers of general circulation and broadcast over PTB4 pursuant to Section 2, Article 2 of the new rules of the standing committees. Your Secretariat received this morning a letter dated 8 December 2020, signed by Assistant Secretary Antonio A. Morales, addressed to the committee chairperson, Senator Panfilo M. Lacson, requesting for the waiver of personal appearance of Mr. Ricardo B. Abejuela III, who is currently serving as consul at the Consulate General's Office of the Republic of the Philippines in New York, USA. The Commission Secretariat has not received any opposition against any of the nominee and appointee. That is all, Mr. Chairman, Your Honors.
Thank you. The Majority Leader.
Mr. Chair, I move that the letter requesting for the waiver of personal appearance of Mr. Ricarte B. Abuela III be approved. I so move, Your Honor.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. So the motion is approved. Secretary Villacorta, kindly administer the oath to the nominee and the appointee who is virtually present.
Okay, let's stand up and raise your right hand. Do you both swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this proceeding, so help you God? Mr. Chairman, both are now under oath.
Of course, it is assumed that Consul Abejuela is inside the consular office in New York, so he's under Philippine jurisdiction. Is that correct? Kindly confirm.
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. The Chair also acknowledges the presence of Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin, who is virtually present, and also the physical presence of Congressman Ferrer, the Chairman of the Defense Committee, the Commission on Appointments. Kindly occupy the front seat, Ambassador, and proceed with your opening statement, if any.
With the permission of the committee chair, Senator Panfilo Lacson, Senator Francis Tolentino, Representative Ronaldo Zamora, the other vice chairpersons and members of the Committee on Foreign Affairs of the Commission on Appointments. Magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. I wish to convey the greetings of Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. and the appreciation of the DFA and of myself for taking to the committee for taking the time to conduct this hearing, notwithstanding the COVID quarantine restrictions, and with only 2 nominees from the DFA. The Netherlands, Your Honor, to our President Rodrigo Duterte nominated me to go upon the recommendation of Secretary Locsin. Maybe among the many countries in Europe that the Philippines maintain diplomatic relations. But said country and the bilateral relations are quite significant in view of the following. In terms of foreign direct investments to the Philippines, Netherlands ranked first out of the 28 EU member states. Approved investments from Netherlands in 2018 amounted to 120 million US dollars. Major Dutch companies have been operating in the Philippines for a long, long time. Notably, consumer product giant Unilever, oil distributor and refiner Shell Philippines, ING Bank, courier service TNT Express, Holland America Lines, and many others. The Netherlands is the Philippines' 9th export destination and one of the country's top 5 trading partners in Europe, alongside Germany, France, UK, and Belgium. It is a major buyer of Philippine-made integrated circuits, static converters, semiconductor devices, as well as mattresses and coconut oil, copra. Mr. Chair, I come from the Bicol region, and of course, copra and coconut oil are major products there. Netherlands is a major partner in development projects and source of ODA and technology, and they have deep expertise in water management. And they have been working very closely with NEDA on a master plan on sustainable development of Manila Bay. And certainly we can work with them further on these areas. And they have programs to raise the technical expertise and skills of Filipino seafarers, thousands of whom are deployed in Dutch vessels in partnership with Marina. Last but not least, Netherlands is a hospitable home for Filipinos working and residing there, who currently number some 16,000. And this may appear like a small number, but if we add the Dutch citizens of Filipino origin, and it's about 23,000, that brings the number to about 40,000 altogether. And I'm pleased to report to the committee that in the period January to June last year, there was only a recorded 1 Filipino who was in jail. Let me repeat that, only 1 Filipino in jail in the first 6 months of last year, and none in the period July to December 2019. In short, we can say that our community members are well cared for. Next year, Your Honors, 2021 is also an exciting year for Philippine-Netherlands relations as it marks the 70th anniversary of the establishment of bilateral relations. A full calendar is being mapped out. In fact, I met with the Dutch ambassador to the Philippines, Saskia de Lang, a few days ago, and she was so excited in mapping out activities and asked that both our embassies work closely to make the commemoration most meaningful. Much certainly has been achieved in the diplomatic relations through the decades, but in my view, more can be done, and which I hope and pray I'll be given the opportunity to do so. Among those that I propose to include in a work plan, if ever I get to be confirmed, would be the following: work on the establishment of a joint economic commission with Netherlands, which can provide direction and focus to the country's business sectors, particularly the small and medium enterprises, in tandem certainly with DTI. Together with DOLE, study the need for an MOU on labor cooperation, enhance cultural and academic exchanges, starting with the University of Leiden and other institutions of higher learning, and engage more closely and provide better services to our growing Filipino community. As a diplomat lawyer, Your Honor, and as a former Assistant Secretary for Treaties and Legal Affairs, I'm very excited to be assigned in the reputed legal capital of the world, where the International Court of Justice and other international legal organizations are based. In particular, I'm looking forward to working closely with the Hague Conference on Private International Law, where one can know more about the best practices in the various legal fields, such as improvement in court processes, evidence taking in civil cases, and custody and maintenance of support for children. In fact, I visited The Hague in February of this year together with Chief Justice Peralta on accession by the Philippines to a number of HCCH conventions. And just a few days ago, the Secretary General of the HCCH, Christophe Bernasconi, sent a request for a meeting sometime in February that is, he is assuming, or in the hope that I would eventually get to be hosted in The Hague. With that brief introductory, I hope, I wish to thank Your Honors, Mr. Chair, for your kind attention and for the opportunity to make a brief presentation before this committee. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. Maraming salamat, Ambassador. The nominee is now ready to respond to any comment or question from any member of the committee. But before that, before I recognize any member who may wish to ask questions, I would like to ask a very simple question to the nominee. Just like the Secretary of Foreign Affairs, you're a member of the bar. So my question is, what made you change your career path from lawyering to foreign service or the diplomatic service? Is lawyering less honorable than the diplomatic service or the foreign service?
Mr. Chair, I think I am a better diplomat because I'm a lawyer. And maybe just to add, my father, my late father, who used to be an RTC judge, encouraged me to go and explore another field. He said he had seen the various fields and aspects of law. Then perhaps I should explore the other aspects in another field. Thank you.
Thank you. Of course, my question didn't mean to offend the lawyers or members of this committee. So, any member who may wish to ask questions? Senator Tolentino is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few questions to the ambassador nominee. Are you related to the DILG Assistant Secretary?
Yes, Your Honor, he is my younger brother.
Your younger brother, also
Yes.
from Bicol.
Yes, from Iriga in Camarines Sur, Your Honor.
For the information of the nominee, during my younger days, I lived in Den Haag for 6 months when I was still studying at the Hague Academy of International Law. Very beautiful place, very beautiful scenery, beautiful girls, likewise. We'll be familiar with that, Ambassador. So my question is, the other day, the President gave a live press conference wherein he affirmed his commitment to human rights. And part of his statement is that he will honor international obligations relative to human rights. You will be in a very delicate position relative to our commitments to human rights, not just with the President saying that, but with the various groups in Europe asking that the Philippines comply with human rights commitments. But there are groups within the United Nations lauding the Philippines, including that Egyptian rapporteur who went to the extent of saying that the Philippines is complying with all human rights obligations. In your own personal opinion and in your projected assignment, how would you portray the Philippine commitments to human rights?
Your Honor, I would say that the Philippines is a strong supporter of human rights. In fact, it has been a pioneer in the human rights fields ever since the Philippines became an active member of the United Nations way back in the late 40s and 50s. We have been emphasizing uh, uh, adherence and observance of human rights. And we have not wavered on this. We are probably the leading country in Asia, and in particular in ASEAN, which has concurred the most to the human rights conventions. And if ever I would be, confirmed for a post in The Hague, I will continue to advocate and to present the true Philippine record on human rights, work with our Philippine mission to Geneva, and hopefully correct the misimpression that other countries and certain individuals have of our record, Your Honor.
Most probably you will be, if you're confirmed, you'll be presenting your credentials by January or of next year. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes, Your Honor, or
So
thereabouts.
by that time, you will be properly apprised of the developments, including the recent announcement by the President and concurred in by the Armed Forces of the Philippines that there will be no ceasefire this coming Christmas season. You'll be probably be asked by the diplomatic community and Den Haag how that evolved, and you're prepared to answer. I'm sure that you'll be bringing along documents, and you'll be probably situated in a delicate position because some compatriots of ours are living in Utrecht. You have Joma Season and the rest who are still ensconced in that place, and I'll not be asking you a question if you're related to the wife of Joma Season, who's also from Iriga. I won't be asking. That's too personal. But probably in a small place like Iriga, all are related to each other. Is that a proper assumption?
Many people are related to one another, but I don't have the fortune maybe of being related
Yeah.
to
So even if you're
the
not
spouse of Mr. Damasisa.
even if you're not related, that's probably a good opportunity to, I guess they will try to reach out to you, being a fellow Bicolon, Uragon, the new ambassador, to have probably some, kinakain doon yung isda, herring, and probably have coffee with the members of the National Democratic Front in Utrecht in your new posting. How are you susceptible to this? Are you amenable to a dialogue with the leadership of the National Democratic Front? Probably that you'll be asked about red tagging. You'll be asked about current events in the Philippines that you should be familiar with. Are you comfortable with that? Being a representative of the Philippine government as well as a Bicolano, a great Bicolano of sorts?
Thank you for the question, which of course is very delicate, Your Honor. Incidentally, I'm not the official channel for communications with the CCP NDF. We have the OPAP for that. And if there would be opportunity for me, or which would call for some engagements, certainly I would be seeking guidance from OPAP and the DFA, and if necessary, the Office of the President.
No, from
Oh.
Senator Lacson, because Senator Lacson was likewise the author of that law, which is now being criticized by some. Heavy debates on red tagging, so you should also consult the
Yes,
teacher.
certainly. I would seek the guidance of
Continue
the
with your answer. And
good senator.
my follow-up question is your position on red tagging and the consequences of this.
Well, on the matter of red tagging, I don't think the DFA has an official position on that. Having said it, as citizens, we have heard, we have read what is actually going on in this country. And we, I think, can judge conduct as they happen. And maybe the proper word is not really red tagging. It may be, just characterize them for what they are. And with respect to what the president had said about having ceasefire for this Christmas, well, that is the pronouncement of the president, and as a government official, I need to follow that. And certainly, as a lawyer, one can defend that as something which is within the prerogative of a state and a government, Your Honor.
Your Honor, you failed to answer my first question. Are you willing to, for instance, if Joe Masison would want to enter the premises of the embassy, are you willing to host him? Because that will now be Philippine territory. And as a lawyer, I think you can still review your revised penal code and other laws. Being in a Philippine territory, you can implement, perhaps execute, ensure the implementation of Philippine laws inside the Philippine territory. You don't have to go to a coffee shop in Amsterdam or in Utrecht or in Amersfoort to meet Mr. Sison. So are you willing to meet him?
Your Honor, in diplomacy, there are what you call as official communications, dealings across the table, formal ones. At the same time, there is what you call as corridor diplomacy. Okay, and as somebody who has been exposed to this trade craft for quite some time, and in view of the fact that Mr. Sison, to my knowledge, remains to be a Filipino, it should be okay, or it may be okay, for me to have dealings with him. And with permission from higher authorities in Manila, maybe I can invite him to the embassy for some functions. After all, he is part of, in fact, the Filipino community in The Hague. So I hope that that is a
After
good
you,
answer.
With the
Thank you.
permission of Senator Tolentino, no, this is an interesting issue. No? As a matter of policy, I was told, this was several years ago, that even the United States Embassy, if say, for example, a person of any nationality enters the premises of the embassy, and that person has an outstanding warrant of arrest against him, it is the policy of the United States Embassy not to execute or enforce the warrant of arrest inside the embassy premises. I wonder if we follow the same policy as regards embassies located abroad. Because as we know, Mr. Sison has outstanding warrants of arrest issued against his person. So you may answer this, or I may toss this question to the Secretary himself. As a matter of policy, once Mr. Sison sets foot inside the embassy premises in The Hague, are you going to effect or enforce or serve the warrant of arrest against Mr. Season. As a matter of policy, not just in The Hague, but in other embassies as well. So I might as well ask the opinion of the Secretary of Foreign Affairs, if I may. Secretary Locsin, if you're...
Yes, Senator Lacson, that's a very novel question. I had no idea you could actually do that. So the United States reserves for itself the right to arrest a person who has an outstanding American warrant of arrest against him.
No, sir. No, inside the embassy, no, sir. They don't do that.
They don't do it, but that's a policy.
That's a policy of the, at least of the United States Embassy in Manila.
Okay, I just want to know for clarification, because this is a completely novel issue. How would they do that? They get their Marines to arrest the guy and detain him?
No, no, sir. They don't do that.
They don't do that.
If
They
a
don't do
person
that.
who has an outstanding warrant of arrest
Yeah.
against him issued by a United States court,
Yes.
I
Okay,
was
yeah.
told that this was several years ago by, I won't mention the name already anymore. But
Yeah.
as a matter of policy, I was told that they don't do that inside the embassy premises. So I'm just wondering if we have the same or similar policy being imposed by our embassies abroad. And this may also help our nominee here to be guided accordingly. No? So I think we should have a clear-cut policy on that. But because, you know, once he is stationed or posted in The Hague, chances are Mr. Season might visit the embassy premises. And I think it is but fair for Ambassador Malaya to be guided accordingly in this regard. So,
Well, if I may, I would like to issue a provisional answer, which is to say no. I will not enforce that warrant of arrest in an embassy abroad. I think there are practical considerations for that. The United States, at least, has a huge, very effective Marine contingent, and they may be able to do that if they wanted to, but they do, but even they do not, because if you did that, then I might, among my primary duties for which I think you and the president himself want me to justify why certain of our personnel have abused their domestic staff, because it embarrasses the dignity and honor of the Foreign Service. I think that if I were to enforce that and arrest him, considering the limited resources we have in all our embassies abroad, we would present an international spectacle that would invite laughter first and then outrage. So if the Americans are not prepared to enforce something that they might, in international law, I have to check, that they might be able to do, I'd hesitate to do it myself. I do not wish to embarrass my country.
thank you very much, Secretary Locsin. And Ambassador Malaya is very thankful for your provisional guidance at least. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator
you, sir.
Tolentino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is supposed to be off the record, but this is known worldwide a year ago when a journalist from Washington Post, Mr. Khashoggi, entered the Saudi Arabian embassy in Turkey. He never went out. He just went in. So that's off the record. He was not arrested. He was supposed to process some papers. He was never found alive again. That's beside the point. So my question is, you're willing to meet Mr. Season through the back door, and again, you restated that you're willing to reaffirm the Philippine position relative to human rights as a positive commitment. My follow-up question is, your embassy is walking distance to the international court, the arbitral court. Would there be some follow-ups? Would there be some positive eagerness on your part to follow up with the court? Or would you have standing to visit that court and probably ask what's the latest development as to the arbitral ruling relative to the West Philippine Sea? Because there are now some European nations, even the United States, who petitioned the court to to implement positively that ruling. Are you aware of that?
Your Honor, certainly, I am aware of it.
Malaya, he cannot answer.
Secretary Jackson would like to speak.
Sir, I think Senator,
Yeah,
Secretary Locsin
Secretary
is
Locsin
raising
is
his hand.
again recognized. Before Secretary Locsin, the chair would like to acknowledge the presence, virtually of course, of Senators Villanueva, Revilla, Poe, and Villar. Go ahead, Secretary Locsin.
Yes. With regard to the arbitral award and the sudden and unexpected recognition of this award and belated recognition of this award by the European nations, for example, I have said when they did that, they actually sent a message to me. Are you not going to say thank you? I said no. The arbitral award stands on its own merit. It is a judicial award. It is an international law award. In fact, it is now part of the international law. If I were to say thank you to Europe, then it would seem as if the validity, the strength, and the power of that decision depends on the support of these European countries. I don't give a damn about them, and I said that. We won that fair and square. We won that all by ourselves. Many countries in Europe were not with us because they saw the wealth of China, and that's always tempting to compromise your principles. So no, I have no interest whatsoever in the support of the European countries. Now, when Secretary of State Pompeo spoke out for it, that is different because that I do not accept as adding to the validity or the strength of the arbitral award. But what it does is it gives military power to it. And that, I said, I appreciate. America's expression of military power in support of the arbitral award. Other than that, the opinions of foreigners are irrelevant to me.
Mr. Chair, what then is the guidance to the new ambassador to the Netherlands coming from the Secretary of Foreign Affairs when he arrives?
My guidance is the same as my guidance to those who asked me to bring the issue again to the UN General Assembly where China holds sway. I am never going to do that. Why should I bring it up to the UN General Assembly? The only purpose for doing that is to give a forum for those who want to promote their careers, their political careers, and make a big show on an international stage. No. We want it. It's there. It is a part of international law. And we'll stand by it. And we will never, as the President said in the United Nations, diminish, dilute, or in any way compromise that victory we had at the Hague. They're just going to have to live with it.
So the guidance, Mr. Secretary, is to keep off the premises, stay away from the premises of the arbitral court. Is that correct?
Okay, so if he goes to the, no, not the arbitral court, we already won that. If he brings it up, who will bring it up to the ICJ? I'm against that. I know now that apparently China wants to relitigate it. Well, I'm going to say no. Stare decisis. I'm going to ignore that. Because
So
once
I think to be vigilant would be the proper guidance to the new ambassador. Be
Yes,
vigilant.
to be careful not to be too enthusiastic.
I think that is clear. So again, I reiterate my earlier statement that you are in a very delicate position. That's a prime assignment. You have to protect our human rights commitments as enunciated by the President 2 days ago. You have to touch base. You mentioned it through the back door with our compatriots from Utrecht, Joe Masison, and the rest. And number 3, you have to be vigilant as regards that arbitral ruling. And number 4, your earlier statement is that there are several big companies in the Netherlands. You have Philips, you have Shell, you have Electrolux based in the Netherlands. You failed to mention Electrolux. Plus, you have a big contingent of religious groups coming from the Philippines. The Pink Sisters is based in Utrecht and all other groups. Plus, our seafarers going to Rotterdam and the rest. Yung mga seaman natin, siguro protektahan nyo rin. Yung po yung mga minsan nawawala na lang sa Europe through Rotterdam. So I have no further questions, Ambassador Malaya. I hope you will take that into consideration. The military is listening. Nandun lang sila sa kabilang kwarto. Yung armed forces ang kasunod mo mamaya. So, sana maging maganda at positive yung pagtigil mo sa the Netherlands. Maraming salamat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Are there other members who wish to propound their questions? Majority Leader? Okay, unmute ulit. Congressman Pancho, you cannot be heard.
Yes,
Also, the
sorry,
chair would like to
Mr. Chair.
acknowledge the presence of Senator Coco Pimentel, virtually, who is now virtually present. Yes, Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that the committee recommends to the plenary for the commission to give its consent to the nomination and to confirm the ad interim appointments of the two officials in the Department of Foreign Affairs.
There is a motion to recommend to the plenary for the commission to give its consent to the nomination of Ambassador Jose Eduardo Enciso Malaya III as Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary to the Kingdom of the Netherlands with the rank and emoluments of a Chief of Mission Class 1, and also the ad interim appointment of Mr. Ricarte Belisario Abehuela III to the rank of Foreign Service Officer Class 1. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Congratulations, Ambassador.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, senators. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Majority Leader?
There being no other matters to discuss, I move to adjourn the meeting.
On motion of the acting Majority Leader, Representative Pancho, the duly seconded. There being no objection, the meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you.
Defense of the Committee on Appointments in the second regular session of the 18th Congress is hereby called to order. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Honorable Chairman, Representative Luis John A. Ferrer IV is present.
Yes, sir.
The other officers and members of the Committee on National Defense are as follows. Alvarez Jr., Heron, Go, Lacson, Pimentel District, Tolentino, Cagas, Chipeco Jr.,
Present.
Hontiveros,
Present.
Marcos,
Present.
Noel, Pancho,
Present.
Po, Ramirez Sato, Revilla Jr., Villar,
Present.
Subiri, Zamora, Almario, Villanueva, Drilon, at Vincula.
Present, sir.
Yes, sir.
Present.
Present.
Hello, sorry.
Mr. Sec, present ako.
Okay. With 3 members present in person, including the chair, and 15 members present online, a total of 18 members present, the existence of a quorum is hereby declared. The chair recognizes the Commission Vice Chairman, Representative Ronaldo B. Zamora.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, in view of the absence of the majority leader and the unavailability of assistant majority floor leaders, I would like to manifest that for today's meeting of the Committee on National Defense, we are designating Congressman Gavini Apple C. Pancho of the 2nd District of Bulacan as acting majority floor leader. At the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman, we will also ask for the election of Congressman Pancho as assistant majority floor leader in the Commission on Appointments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The manifestation of the Commission Vice Chair is duly noted. Acting Majority Floor Leader, you are recognized. Congressman Pancho, audio.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, Your Honors. Mr. Chair, I move to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the meeting held on November 19, 2020, and consider the same as approved.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the same is hereby approved. Good morning, esteemed members of the Committee on National Defense of the Commission on Appointments, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are tasked to deliberate on the 44 ad interim appointments and 8 nominations of senior officers in the Armed Forces of the Philippines that were submitted to the committee's jurisdiction for its consideration. Officers, please stand up as your name is called. Jonathan P. Obena, to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Wendell J. Basat to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Nestor A. Etis to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force. Richard B. Rabaca to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Augusto N. Padua to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force. Kim Eric Alexander D. Agatep to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force. Marvel C. Sabellion to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force. Arthur M. Romanillos Jr. to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Arnel B. Bautista to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Randy N. Espino to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Ferdinand P. Romano to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force. Hilarion G. Palma to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Luciano M. Cayman Jr. to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Erickson V. Rosana to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Isaklolo H. Leroy Jr. to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Eduardo M. Monhardin to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Gilberto T. Esteban Jr. to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force. Ronaldo L. Zaragoza to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force. Carlito P. Lingad Jr. to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force. Jacob Tadeus M. Obligado to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Emilito T. Lucero to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force. Gaspar B. Panopio, the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Glenjoy U. Ainera to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Eufrasio G. Malik Jr. to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Carlo Franco A. Pimentel to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Fernando B. Dulawan to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Ramilo B. Trinidad to the rank of Captain, Philippine Navy. Jose Tadeo M. Javier II to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force. Gregory Gerald V. Fabic to the rank of Captain, Philippine Navy. Harold M. Argamosa to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Oliver A. Banaria to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force. Benvenido F. Simon Jr., the rank of Colonel, Corps of Professors. Tommy A. Deliva to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Victorino C. Patricio to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force. Noel E. Buncab to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Navy Marines. Jerry E. Polohanan to the rank of Brigadier General. Lito D. Villanueva to the rank of Brigadier General. Romulo A. Manuel Jr. to the rank of Brigadier General. Nonilon T. Lawas to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Joannis Leonardi B. Di Maano to the rank of Brigadier General. Jose Maria R. Cuerpo II to the rank of Brigadier General. Bartolome Vicente O. Bacaro to the rank of Major General. Wilbur C. Mamawag to the rank of Brigadier General. Jose H. Narciso to the rank of Brigadier General. Vince James D. Bantilan to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Norberto L. Agbay to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Roy Anthony O. Derillo to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Esteven E. Ducusin to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army. Arman G. Mampusti to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force. Rogelio D. Ulanday to the rank of Brigadier General. Ramil Roberto B. Enriquez to the rank of Vice Admiral. And Eugenio V. Hernandez to the rank of Major General. Mr. Secretary, kindly report on the jurisdictional requirements and other pertinent information relative to their ad interim appointments and nominations in compliance with the new rules of the Commission and the new rules of the Standing Committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. All the appointees and nominees have complied with the submission of the documentary requirements as provided for in Section 24, Chapter 6 of the new rules of the Commission. On various dates, their ad interim appointments and nominations were referred by the Senate President and CA Chairperson Vicente C. Soto III to the Committee on National Defense pursuant to Section 16, Chapter 5 of the new rules of the Commission, and were published in 2 newspapers of general circulation and broadcast over PTB4 pursuant to Section 2, Article 2 of the new rules of the standing committees. The CA Secretariat is in receipt of letters dated December 4 and 7, 2020 from the Office of the Deputy Chief of Staff for Personnel, J1, Major General Adriano S. Perez Jr., addressed to the committee chairman, Representative Luis John A. Ferrer IV, requesting for the waiver of personal appearances of Colonel Vince James D. Bantilan, who is currently posted as AFP Assistant Liaison Officer to the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, Hawaii, USA, and Colonel Harold M. Argamosa, as his RT-PCR test result shows that he is positive for COVID-19. Nevertheless, Colonels Bantilan and Argamosa are appearing online in today's hearing. There is no opposition filed against any of the ad interim appointments and nominations of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. That is all, Mr. Chairman, Your Honors.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Majority Leader.
Mr. Chair, I move that the letters requesting for the waiver of personal appearances of the aforementioned senior officers be approved. I so move, Your Honor.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved. We would like to recognize the presence of Senator Mig Subiri and Congresswoman Nene Sato. Mr. Secretary, kindly administer the oath to the appointees and nominees, including Colonels Bantilan and Argamosa, who are present online before this committee.
Kindly all raise your right hand. Do you all swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this proceeding, so help you God? Thank you. Mr. Chairman, they are now all under oath.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Secretary. May we now call on Rear Admiral Ramil Roberto B. Enriquez, nominated to the rank of Vice Admiral, the most senior among the officers now under consideration, to please take seat in front. Sir, you may now give your opening statement if you have any.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and to the honorable members of the Committee on to the CA commission appointments. I, together with 51 other members of the armed forces, are present here today to, in compliance with the provisions of the Constitution, asking for the approval of our respective appointments and ad interim appointments. Mr. Chair, I am the just posted commander of the AAP Western Command in Palawan, barely 2 weeks ago. This is my fifth posting in the island province, and I am very overwhelmed by the challenges in the province, considering that we are facing multi levels of threats coming from the West Philippine Sea, the terrorism threats, and of course the local terrorist groups and other terrorist factions coming to Palawan. This aside from the various environmental concerns of the western frontier and the ones being perpetrated by other nations with respect to the national or natural environment of the waters of Palawan and particularly at the West Philippine Sea. So with this, Mr. Chair, this soldier, along with other members of the armed forces who are here with me today, are asking for the approval of the commission for our confirmation of our appointments and interim appointments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. The floor is now open for questions and inquiries, and we would like to recognize Senator Bongo.
Mr. Chairman, I have no questions for the nominee. I would like to deliver a simple statement of support. Mr. Chairman, I would like to express my sincere and utmost gratitude to the 44 senior members of the armed forces whose ad interim appointments and 8 nominations will be confirmed and given consent to. This morning, let me make of record my full support for the confirmation of the ad interim appointments of Colonel Jacob Ligado, tagal ko na rin po itong kilala, currently Assistant Chief of Staff for Civil Military Operations, G7 10th Infantry Division in Mawab, Davao de Oro. Colonel Glenn Ainera, Assistant Chief of Staff for Operations, G3, PSG. Si Colonel Gilberto Esteban Jr. na naging Assistant Chief of Unified Command for Plans, Eastern Mindanao Command, Naval Station, Palacan. Colonel Luciano Mahamo Cayman Jr., Commandant po ng 10th Division Training School, 10th Division in Mawab also. Colonel Vince James Van Tillian, na dating commander po ng 10th Military Intelligence Battalion, acting Assistant Chief of Staff for Intelligence at 10th Division. Colonel Harold Argamosa, Assistant Chief of Unified Command Staff for Intelligence, U2, East Mindanao Command, Panakan also. Colonel Hilarion Palma, Chief of Staff, Joint Task Force, Haribon, Eastern Mindanao Command, Panakan. Colonel Nonilon Lawas, dating commander po ng 10th Signal Battalion, Army Signal Regiment, dyan po sa Mawab rin po. Colonel Estevin Dukusin, assigned po sa 11th Regional Community Defense Unit, Army Reserve Command, Davao City. Also, let me make of record my support for the nomination of Major General Eugenio Hernandez na nagsilbi bilang Deputy Chief of Staff for Service and Retiree Affairs, J9 po ng Armed Forces, and of course si Vice Admiral Ramil Roberto Enriquez. Dati po siyang na-assign sa NFEM, dyan rin po sa Davao, sa Panakan. E ngayon po ay siya ang commander po ng Western Command sa Puerto Princesa. Mabuhay po kayo. Furthermore, I highly recommend and support the confirmation of the ad interim appointments of Navy Captain Ramilo Trinidad, Colonel Corps of Professors Bienvenido Simon Jr., Colonel Ronaldo Zaragoza, Colonel Marvel Sabellion, Colonel Erickson Rosana, Colonel Ferdinand Romano, Colonel Arthur Romanillos Jr., Colonel Richard Rabaca, Brigadier General Jerry Polohanan, Colonel Carlo Pimentel, Colonel Victorino Patricio, Colonel Gaspar Panopio, Colonel Augusto Padua, Colonel Jonathan Obena, Colonel Eduardo Monhardin, Colonel Arman Mampusti, Colonel Eufrasio Malig Jr., Colonel Emilito Lucero, Colonel Carlito Linga Jr., Colonel Jose Javier II, Navy Captain Gregory Fabic, Colonel Nestor Etis, Colonel Randy Espino, Colonel Fernando Dulawan, Colonel Isaac Lolo De Roy Jr., Colonel Roy Derillo, Colonel Tommy Deliva, Colonel Noel Bungcab, Colonel Arnel Bautista, Colonel Wendell Basat, Colonel Oliver Banyaria, Colonel Norberto Agbay, Colonel Kim Erica Agatep, Colonel Brigadier General Wilbur Mamawag, Brigadier General Jose Narciso. Lastly, I fully recommend and support the nominations of Brigadier General Romulo Manuel Jr., Brigadier General Joanis Dimano, Brigadier General Jose Maria Osicuerpo II. Ito po yung nasa Marawi na assign. Major General Bartolome Bacaro, Brigadier General Lito Villanueva, Brigadier General Rogelio Ulanday. Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat sa katapatan, sa pagsiservisyo ninyo sa ating bayan. Our country will forever be grateful to each and every one of you for your unparalleled service to the Filipino people and for your continuously ensuring our safety. Muli, salamat. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Go. Any other member who wish to give a manifestation or have a question? Senator Lacson, and after
Yes.
Senator Lacson, Senator Ivy.
May I respectfully request that Colonel Savillon be invited to occupy the front seat.
Sir, yeah, excuse that. Good, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are discrepancies noted in his date and place of birth, and even his spouse name, because we have here two documents, and this needs to be clarified, particularly on the issue of his date of birth, because this has a direct effect on his date of retirement. So this needs to be clarified. Yung kanyang report of medical examination, I suppose this one is the same person, and this needs to be clarified because it says here his date of birth, and this is dated 12 February 2020, yung date of examination, is 6 December 1971. His place of birth is Enrile, Cagayan. Doon sa kanyang personal and family background submitted to the Commission on Appointments, ang kanya pong date of birth is 11 November 1973. Ang place of birth is Cebu City. Never mind the spouse, the name of the spouse. I'm more particularly interested in the date of birth. So, Colonel, which is which? Which is true and which is false?
Sir, my date of birth, sir, is 11 November 1973, sir.
Yes. So, kindly explain this document. Who committed the error here? But you confirm that you are the same person who undertook physical or medical examination last 12 February of 2020.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so there could be a mistake somewhere. Kaninong entry itong, this computer generated, by the way.
I will try to find that error, sir.
No, find out now because we have to recommend you to for confirmation later this morning. So can somebody explain this to the committee? Baka may nagsasabotahe naman sa'yo dito. It's either that or this plain and simple matiti. Would you like to take a look?
Yes, sir.
Sige. This is your medical examination report. Yeah. So please, yeah, please occupy your seat again. Sino yan?
Sir, I have mislooked this error, sir, which is given to me from our medical board, sir. So I was not able to scan about this error, sir.
And you confirm that you're the one who submitted that
Yes, sir.
medical report.
Yes, sir.
So how could you commit that simple error, simple mistake? You could have corrected it right away before you submitted your documents to the GA.
Yes,
That's
sir.
material,
It's-
That's
it's-
very material.
It's my fault, sir.
So who is that? Who is that?
I was not able to confirm. I was not able to scan because of this document, sir, is actually it is with the other person. It's other officer with the name of his wife. But this person is also a candidate for CA, but this
Today?
person unfortunately died, sir.
Today. He's supposed to be one of the
Yes, sir.
recommendees for
Yes,
today's
sir.
confirmation.
So,
He died
Ah.
when? So you know Martha Bakay.
itong ano, sir, itong tao na to, sir, is also candidate for confirmation, but namatay siya nung early.
No, but you know personally Martha Bakay to
No,
be
sir.
married to that
No, sir.
person that you're referring to?
No, sir. I'm not.
But who are
I
you
don't-
referring to? Yung namatay ka mo? And how would you know?
He's
Na-
also
yung-
Colonel Bakay, sir. He's also a candidate for confirmation,
What's
sir.
the
But
name again?
unfortunately, he died before, sir. Early this year, sir.
Meron ba J1 dito?
Uh,
J1, kindly explain this.
can we call on RJ1, ma'am? Okay.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir. Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Sir, it's true that Colonel Bakay died before he could have appeared to the CA. I'm just wondering how medical board number 1 encoded that record to Colonel Sabilion, sir. Because normally when the candidates report for medical board number 1, they are the ones who fill up yung medical forms natin to provide them the data. So ito yung parang ano, sir, and then the medical board retype this, sir, nire-retype nila, sir. Kaya perhaps there was somewhere along the way when they are typing already or
Okay.
finalizing
Yeah.
the report, sir.
Yeah, that's clear enough. Ang
Yes,
point
sir.
ko is, it is the personal responsibility of the nominee or the appointee to submit his records.
Yes, sir. Correct po, sir.
And you're admitting that you overlooked. Hindi mo na chinek yung kung tama ba yung entry sa AFP medical examination report.
Hindi ko na nabasa lahat, sir. Parang na-overlook ko lang, sir, talaga.
Yeah, I know, but this is your personal responsibility, you know. What if kung ano napalagay doon sinasabit mong documents? Just like in this particular case.
Yes, sir.
So next time, in case you'll be promoted or recommended for promotion to BG, you better be careful.
Yes, sir.
This might we might take this against you, but since this is a clear case of oversight, so sige, sa akin wala nang issue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sir Lacson. Okay, you're now excused, Colonel. May I call can we invite again Vice Admiral Enriquez? Okay, Senator Amy Marcos, you're recognized.
Yes, if we can call General Bacaro, please, and Colonel Monjardin,
Sorry, Vice
and
Admiral.
Colonel Mampusti after.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, is General Bacaro there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, General. You gained fame when you were honored with the much coveted Medal of Valor in 1991. You were still a young lieutenant in the Army. Sumikat po kayo sa 10-hour firefight sa Maconacon, Isabela. At narinig namin yung pangalan ninyo. Gusto ko lang malaman kung meron kayong insight sa ongoing issues natin sa NPA. Baka meron kang ma-contribute.
Yes, Madam. Right now, we are indeed facing internal threat, and with the trust that we are having right now, particularly the implementation of a DSSP Kapayapaan, we are gaining some headway, Madam Chair. And right now, we are implementing fragment number 5 of the DSSP Kapayapaan, wherein the Armed Forces of the Philippines is complementing the community-centric approach being undertaken by the national government, particularly under NTF-LCAC. We are complementing it with a NWA-centric concept, which
I'm
is...
sorry, it's community-centric and thereafter complemented by?
That one is complemented by enemy-centric approach or concept, Madam Chair. So
I see.
we are, yes, and we are gaining headway. We are implementing the concept of dislocate, isolate, disintegrate, and destroy, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm certain that with his remarkable start in the military, General Bacaro will be a fine officer and pride of the AFP from both San Fernando and Baguio, as well as having been born in Paniqui. I understand you're pure Ilocano. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Colonel Monjardin, please. Is the Colonel available?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Colonel. I saw that you got an award, the Gawad sa Kaunlaran Medal in 2016 for planning and participating in the Joint Task Force Pacific Partnership in 2016. Given the emphasis today on disaster preparedness and the military response and assistance in catastrophic natural disasters, what is your insight from this experience?
Yes, ma'am, thank you for. Based on my experience, ma'am, when I was then assigned at the Bicol area, ma'am. I was
Yes.
the battalion commander. On what to have experienced during that time, I was then the battalion commander during the 2016 December, I forgot yung bagyo po, ma'am.
Oo nga, that's right. Oo, ako din hindi ko maalala at this point in time.
Based on our experience, ma'am, after that incident, immediately in the morning, the number of problems that we have encountered is communication, which is, I think that is one important thing that we have to develop in the future.
I'm sorry, please repeat.
On communication aspect, ma'am.
I see, yes, communication.
Yes, ma'am, because immediately after the disaster, we have no contact from our subordinate units and other areas wherein we could check or confirm what are the current status
I see.
So the response would not be that hindi ano ma'am, hindi immediate, and
That's right.
and also ma'am is the next thing is yung yung accessibility. What is the next important thing in order for the yung mga goods could be
I see.
delivered to the area ma'am.
You're talking about air accessibility, Colonel?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, particular the road nets, ma'am, because after the
I see.
disaster, most trees fall down, electric posts, and what we have experienced during that time is we use motorcycle just to check the road net in our area.
I
Motorcycle,
see.
and then, yes, ma'am. And
So is
yeah,
this,
most important.
I think we agree with you because the experience in Catanduanes in the recent typhoons is the same, and we've decried time and again the lack of C-130 capability in the Philippines. Forever na lang yung mga lumang under repair, kaya tama po yung sinasabi mo. Thank you very much, Colonel, and I'm certain that you should be, in fact, promoted. Thank you. Si Colonel Mampusti lang po.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, is Colonel Mampusti available?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Colonel Mampusti, I'm just very curious about the hijab troopers that you organized. The CRC composed entirely of women. I'd like to know a little about this initiative of yours.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Amy.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, ma'am.
if I may, with the indulgence of Senator Amy, just add to the good senator's question, because I was also going to ask a similar question.
Yes, sure. Of course, Lisa.
Thank you, Senator Amy. If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead po, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I joined Senator Amy in noting with great interest, Colonel Mampusti, yung pagkakilala nga po sa inyo sa aktibong papel nyo sa pag-organize niyang CRC, composed entirely of women dubbed as the hijab troopers for wearing the traditional Muslim hijab, and who were responsible for assisting the psychosocial healing of internally displaced persons in Marawi City. So if I could just please add, Colonel, to the question of the good senator, if you could share before this committee the current status of the people of Marawi and its rehabilitation, and your thoughts on that status, Colonel. Thank you, Senator Amy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am. Senator Amy, can we continue?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Yes,
questions.
let's allow the Colonel to answer, please.
Yes, ma'am. To the questions of the two good senators, ma'am. At the onset, ma'am, I would like to state that I am not the primary, and I was not the one who actually crafted the concepts on hijab troopers, but our office is currently very active on the hijab troopers when it happened in Marawi. So as an answer to the question, yes, ma'am, we are doing very great, and it was a great response to having conceptualized the hijab troopers in response to what happened in Marawi. We are very fortunate that we were able to do this concept and implement it because we foresaw, and we were able to experience that the needs of our Muslim women can actually be addressed principally by our soldiers on the ground. Since in the immediate aftermath of Marawi, there were no available female soldiers on the ground. But of course, ma'am, as we can see, the hijab troopers were a great success. And as far as the second question, ma'am, of the good Senator Hontiveros, I'd like to state that I am not very familiar with the current status of the rehabilitation in Marawi. But as of now, ma'am, as far as the peace and security is concerned,
I believe, ma'am, and I think that the AAP is doing well in the area. That is all, ma'am, and thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
you, Senator Amy. Mr. Chair, if I may.
Sure.
Thank you, Senator Amy. Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Colonel, just to thank you for your response to the questions of Senator Amy and this representation. Despite your admirable modesty, I still would like to believe na yung pong isinagawa ninyong pag-organisa ng CRC, the women soldiers dubbed as the hijab troopers, at yung focus po nila sa mental health, no, yung psychosocial healing, umaasa po ako na magiging positibong elemento ito sa matagal at mahirap na rehabilitation ng mga residente ng Marawi City. Salamat po, Colonel. Mabuhay kayo. Advance congratulations and my snap of salute. Thank you, Senator Amy. Salamat po, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Madam Senator, and thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And with that, I have no further questions, merely a manifestation to encourage and endorse the promotion of so many fine officers and gentlemen from Northern Luzon, General Bacaro, General Mamawag, Colonel Basat Agatep, Bautista Palma Esteban Obligado, Ken Nadulawan, ni Apo Colonel Patricio Bungcab, Colonel Bantilan, and Brigadier General Hernandez. Sa inyong lahat, pasingkedan, tikinatan, Okni Ilocano, congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to my fellow members.
Thank you, Senator Amy. Senator Lacson.
May I respectfully invite Colonel Basat to the front seat. Thank you, Colonel. I just need to be clarified. Yung issue ng negative net worth sa SALN, ano? Kasi ang tingin ko, how could a government official, a public official, have a negative net worth sa SALN unless nasunugan, nanakawan, or nalugi sa negosyo? Are you one of any of those three?
Sir, actually,
Kasi
I was...
excuse me, negative net worth 382,793 pesos and 35 centavos. Paki-explain mo lang.
Yes, sir, based on my SALN, sir, I acquired a negative asset and liabilities because due to my former case of estafa, which was caused by my ex-wife, I resorted to acquiring many loans, and because of that, nag-accumulate yung mga loans, sir, and I have not acquired any real estate, but because of the loans, it resorted to...
These are salary loans?
Oh, yes, sir.
So walang collateral? Wala.
No, sir.
That explains why you would incur. Kasi inisip ko, even if you have a housing loan, may equity ka.
Yes, sir.
And the house itself, the house and lot na nakuha mo out of the loan proceeds, meron ka ring
yes, sir.
equity doon. So how would you have a negative net worth?
As of now,
In your
sir,
case, that's different because marami kang loans dahil nga you had to settle something. Ano? So,
yes, sir.
okay, that's all. More concerned lang ako or confused lang ako doon sa mga issue ng net worth. Kasi
Yes,
how
sir.
could we incur net worth kung meron man tayo equity. So halimbawa, humiram ka, halimbawa car loan, may kotse ka naman. So positive pa rin yung net worth mo when you compute. Di
Yes,
ba?
sir.
When you have a house and lot na niloan mo, meron ka ring equity, say 20% or 30%, positive pa rin yung net worth. But your case is different.
Yes, sir. I think for this year, it might go in positive na, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Any other, okay, Senator Rizal Tiveros.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mari po bang matanong si Vice Admiral Ramil Roberto Enriquez? Mr. Chairman.
Okay po. Go ahead po, ma'am.
Salamat, Mr. Chairman, at magandang umaga po, Vice Admiral Enriquez. Sir.
Good morning, Madam Senator. I'm still Rear Admiral and I'm just hoping to be promoted to the next area. Thank you po.
Salamat, sir. Sana po nagdidilang anghela ko bilang miyembro po nitong komite. Sir, I read in your profile that in 2017, you were honored with a Distinguished Service Star for directing and executing counterintelligence projects of the Philippine Navy and Armed Forces, including Intelligence Project Dolphin on territorial defense operations, maritime domain awareness, and maritime law enforcement. I just have a single question for you, Sir, Rear Admiral to be Vice Admiral Enriquez. Sir, we all know that China sustains her presence and actions within the West Philippine Sea arena or area for reasons embedded into her very own national security strategy. Our external or territorial defense capability to protect our borders and territorial waters is not yet at a level so as to have a realistic and credible defense force which lends assurance and confidence to our people. So how do you think, sir, that our armed forces would address this situation in which we are still currently engaged in internal security operations and thus resources are thinly dispersed, which preempts a very robust capability build-up program para naman po sa external defense. So siguro, sir, halong paghingi po ito ng inyong pagtingin at saka yung inyo ring rekomendasyon moving forward. Given your strong background in these territorial defense operations, lalo na po sa maritime, at saka po yung kasalukuyang sitwasyon natin vis-a-vis China sa West Philippine Sea. Admiral, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Senator. The award given to me last 2017 was due to my efforts at the Naval Forces Eastern Mindanao area, wherein our territorial borders with Indonesia was concerned. However, this is very different when we say with our problems with the West Philippine Sea. As early as 2011, we already reported the efforts of China that they will be constructing something big in the West Philippine Sea. And true enough, through the years, we now see what they have been doing. Ang sinasabi po namin dito, ma'am, we cannot be complacent enough despite our lack of resources and assets in containing this threat. We have claimed the Calayan Island Group, declared it to be a municipality, but we cannot really make it an excuse that we lack the assets not to exert our efforts to gain at least maritime domain awareness. In context, the efforts of Palawan, the Navy, the Air Force, and the whole armed forces in contributing to the decision of the International Tribunal with regard to the 9 Dutch line has been partly because we were not complacent enough. We were doing our duty despite what we lack in the area. So in essence, ma'am, we cannot say that we focus on the insurgents threat. After all, the local communist threat in Palawan has been widely dissipated by actions of Westcom way back September, at least before my time. So we can also continue focusing on at least patrolling our islands, our waters, and exercising maritime domain awareness at the very least. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And maraming salamat din po, Mr. Chair, para dun sa sinabi ni Rear Admiral to be Vice Admiral Enriquez, I think was both descriptive at saka prescriptive na rin. Inilarawan po nila yung trend na habang mas epektibong na-address yung mga internal security matters na properly pivot or pumipihit ang armed forces sa external defense. At na-appreciate ko, Mr. Chairman, yung pagbanggit po ni Vice Admiral Enriquez dun sa desisyon ng International Tribunal. Again, magandang description po yun at saka prescription din na dahil meron tayong makapangyarihang diplomatic at political weapon na iyon. Di ba sinasabi na yung diplomasya, it's an extension of war by other and I would say better means. At least po solid po yung tinatayuan at solid yung nagba-back up sa armed forces natin in expressing that credible defense posture na by right, no, kinilala po ng mundo yung soberanya natin sa bahagi ng West Philippine Sea. So I really look forward, Mr. Chairman, sa ganitong patuloy na epektibo at saka enlightened na pagsasagawa ng military at defense responsibilities ng armed forces pati po sa West Philippine Sea. Marami pong salamat, Rear Admiral to be Vice Admiral Enriquez. Advanced congratulations and mabuhay po kayo. Nice na, salute, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Senator.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chair, maari po bang, unless may ibang miyembro po ng komite na gustong magtanong sa iba, I have another question po for
Mr. Chair, with the permission of
yes, of
Senator
course,
Senator
Mr.
Rita,
Chairman. Yes, Senator
we'd like to
Francis.
recognize Senator Tolentino.
Admiral, just one question. I'm contemplating on filing a measure that would recognize our seafarers, our seamen, to be reclassified as merchant marines and as a reserve component of the naval force. Would you be amenable to this? Because these are our active seafarers on private vessels, day in and day out, toiling for the country and their families, but not recognized with military ranks. But in other countries, they are recognized. In fact, there was a belated bill approved by the U.S. Congress in 2007 honoring the merchant marines as U.S. naval heroes. Would you be, because this would restructure everything as a force multiplier and as an added reserve component to the Philippine Navy. Anong tingin niyo po doon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Your Honor. Thank you for the question because this topic is previously in my field. Before becoming the Commander Westcom, I was the Deputy Chief of Staff for Reservists and Military Affairs or J9. And my predecessor is also here with us today. However, sir, we welcome this move. In fact, we are being mandated to produce our force multipliers in the event of a conflict. The actual regular force will be only comprising 20% of our fighting force, 80% from the reserves. However, sir, we would like, may I recommend to have a look into the current existing Bible of the reservists, the Republic Act 7077, where I think it is believed to be stated there that all the service will be voluntary in nature and not mandatory or compulsory. Maybe the passage of another law which will repeal that certain provisions are maybe necessary, so we can have a pool of reservists, particularly in the maritime domain, which our country is maritime country. So welcome po namin yan, sir.
You are referring to the various pending ROTC bills, which would probably validate all of this. But the basis of my question is that the other side, I would not mention the name of the country, are just using militias, naval militias, fishermen in disguise, but really trained naval officers. But I think we have a better force with our seamen, seafarers, just holding their seamen's book. They are better trained. In fact, yesterday, you've heard in the news that somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean, a group of Filipino seafarers rescued 2 Americans off the shores of North Carolina, a sinking vessel. Filipino yung nag-rescue, yung vessel nila. So it happens everywhere. We have the biggest seafarer merchant marines contingent in the whole world. Pagsasama-samahin lang yun. Thank you for your answer. Thank you for being forthright.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Go ahead po, Senator Risa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maaari naman po bang tanungin si Brigadier General Jerry Pulohanan? Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Salamat po, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir. Magandang umaga po, Brigadier General Pulohanan. Meron din lang po akong nag-iisang tanong para sa inyo. Nandito po sa profile ninyo na dati po kayong chief ng AFP's Human Rights Office. So, nais ko lang pong tanungin kayo kung ano po ba yung mga importanteng leksyon na natutunan ninyo tungkol sa human rights observance ng armed forces, and moving forward kung ano po yung kung mayroon kayong mga rekomendasyon kung paano mas institutionalize ang human rights protection habang patuloy nating minomodernize at nire-reforma ang AFP, General, Mr. Chairman.
As former chief of the AP Human Rights Office, ma'am, the office is responsible in monitoring human rights violations committed by AP personnel, and also to cause investigation in case there is violation committed by AP personnel, ma'am. So, in that regard, ma'am, all complaints or issues raised pertaining to human rights violations are being referred by the Human Rights Office to the Office of the Provost Marshal for the purpose of conducting investigation. Because the Office of the Human Rights Office, the AP Human Rights Office, ma'am, does not have investigative function. It only has the obligation to cause the investigation of any human rights violations committed or charged against the soldier concerned, ma'am.
Salamat po, Brigadier General Pulohanan. Sa preventive side po at sa proactive side, kumusta naman po yung human rights education na maaaring isinasagawa ng AFP Human Rights Office, at muli meron ba kayong mga rekomendasyon tungkol dyan para hindi laging hindi mayat maya parang may pag-iisip na kontra ba sa pagsasagawa ng armed forces ng inyong military functions itong usapin ng karapatang pantao, dahil gusto ko sanang makita na progressively umuusad tayo sa panahon na matter of factly tanggap ng buong gobyerno natin at maging ng ating armed forces na magkapatid or parang magkambal, no, yung pagsasagawa ng mga military at saka defense functions sabay na inoobserbahan yung ating mga human rights standards, General, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am. There is continuing effort on the part of the AP Human Rights Office as well as the Major Service Human Rights Office to continue disseminating and training our personnel as regards to the observance of the human rights in the conduct of the military operations. As a matter of fact, ma'am, there are some documents being disseminated or proofs that before they come into operation or to have engagement with the river forces, they are reminded to always follow human rights. And in fact, ma'am, prior to their deployment, there is training conducted for the purpose. to avoid and to ensure that no human rights violations is committed by our personnel, ma'am.
Salamat po, General, at salamat po, Mr. Chairman. Alam ko it's easier said than done. Alam ko napakaraming hamon in the field. Pero sana po ituring nyo kaming mga mambabatas na partners ninyo sa pagharap sa mahirap pero necessary na hamong ito. Dahil mataas po talaga ang expectations, hindi lang namin pero lahat ng ating mga mamamayan sa armed forces bilang isa sa importanteng institusyon, di lang sa ating gobyerno pero sa ating lipunan. Salamat po, Brigadier General Puluhanan. Advanced congratulations. Mabuhay po kayo. My snappy salute. Salamat, sir. Salamat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, may I still... Yes, sir. Unless another member would like to ask a question of another officer, may I continue to ask questions, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mari po bang matanong si Brigadier General Romulo Manuel Jr.?
Yes, ma'am.
Salamat po, Brigadier General Manuel, Mr. Chairman. Muli, sir, isang tanong lamang po. I note in your profile that you were honored with a Distinguished Service Star in 2018, that you also provided coverage to the Philippine delegation during their presentation of the oral arguments hearing on jurisdiction and admissibility in the case filed by the country, by our country against China at the International Court of Justice. So yung nag-iisang tanong ko po, Brigadier General Manuel, kung ano po yung insights nyo sa napaka-importanteng prosesong iyon na pinasukan ng ating bansa, which has raised important issues of sovereignty vis-a-vis the regional power in our region and a rising global power sa harap ng isang importanteng korte ng ating mundo. Are there any particular unforgettable memories, recollections you have of that process, General, at saka yung mga insights nyo that would be useful to us moving forward as we also struggle to constructively and peacefully engage China in the West Philippine Sea. General, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, Senator, good morning. I was the defense attaché then in Spain, and like what was mentioned by Admiral Enriquez, that the armed forces contributed to the documents needed that will help our panel in gaining that decision in the Permanent Court of Appeals in The Hague, Netherlands. So, as we know, history says that we have a positive issue on that side, and we're moving on that aspect. So all of the armed forces contributed to the documents that needed in that case that led to the positive decision.
Thank you, Brigadier General Manuel, at salamat at mabuhay sa naging papel ninyo dyan sa napaka-importanting diplomatic at political victory nating iyon, na sinabi din ni retired Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio ay was historic kasi nagbunga ito di lamang ng tagumpay sa ating bayan, kundi in a sense tagumpay para sa buong mundo, lalo na yung iba pang claimant countries dito sa West Philippine Sea. Sabi ni Justice Carpio, the award created the largest maritime area for the global commons. So hindi lang pala para sa atin sa Pilipinas, pero para sa lahat ng mga claimant countries. So wala na po ba kayong gustong ibahagi, Brigadier General Manuel, na unforgettable memory nyo tungkol sa process na iyon?
Just to add, the whole of government, speakers, senators, and other high-ranking government officials that went to The Hague to file that case. And as I have observed, other countries that are also claiming
Opo.
dun sa mga islands are also observing the process. And some of the defense attaché in where I was posted also like to follow the same process.
At palagay ko, Brigadier General Manuel, yun yung dahilan din na yung iba't ibang bahagi din ng kani-kanilang mga gobyerno ay sa ayaw nila at sa gusto, kailangan nilang mag-take cognizance of nitong importanteng prosesong isinagawa natin at yung diplomatic victory nga po na iyon. So salamat po Brigadier General Manuel, advanced congratulations po, mabuhay po kayo, may snappy salute. Salamat sir, salamat Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you sir. Mr. Chair, maaari rin po bang magtanong kay Brigadier General Jose Cuerpo?
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
Salamat, Mr. Chairman. Magandang umaga po, Brigadier General Cuerpo. Isang tanong din lamang po, sir. Andito po sa profile ninyo na you were conferred with a Bronze Cross Medal in 2011 including for coupling the negotiations involving the Office of the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process and the AFP Civil Relations. Ito po yung kaugnay nung kinumbinsin nyo si Rebel Leader Benjamin Salusad na mag-surrender at na may suporta din ng mga local officials at prominent individuals mula sa religious at business sectors. Brigadier General Cuerpo, meron din po ba kayong pinaka-importanting lessons at saka reflections sa proseso pong iyon kaugnay ng OPAP at saka yung AFP Civil Relations na gusto niyong ibahagi sa aming komite, General, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chair, Madam Senator, thank you for the question, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Just for a very short history of that, Mr. Salusad is a lumad, a manubo of Bukidnon, and he was one of the most feared commander of NPA in Front Committee 6, operating in the southern part of Bukidnon, specifically in San Fernando down to Quezon municipality. Probably, ma'am, the most important lesson that I've learned in that negotiation is the importance of trust between the two parties. Benjamin Salusad trusted me to help them, their group, in connecting them to the different government agencies because they're tired already of fighting soldiers in the mountains of Bukidnon, especially at that time. There was a massive operations, and we had a intense encounter with them, and he experienced they were left behind by their comrades. They call them Dagatnots, or the lowlanders, the non-lumad. They left them during that 3-day encounter, and he got so disgusted. That's why that made him decided to look for a person that he can connect with in the government, and surrender himself and his group. There were about, I think there were about 35 armed members, all nomads, and around 150 supporters who came down, and we housed them in our battalion headquarters at that time.
Salamat po, Brigadier General Cuerpo, Mr. Chairman. Napaka-importante po nung binanggit ni General Cuerpo tungkol sa papel ng tiwala o trust, lalo na sa mga negosasyon. At bilang dating miyembro ng government panel sa peace talk sa National Democratic Front, alam ko kung ganong kahirap pero ganong ka-precious yung ingredient na iyon, whether on a battlefield after the battle or kahit sa negotiating table. Minsan, siguro ganun po yung nangyari sa pagitan ni na General Cuerpo at ni Benjamin Salusad, na minsan it is combatants or ex-combatants na nakaka-generate ng trust na iyon between each other, dahil alam din po talaga nila yung battlefield conditions at kasama po sila sa stakeholders na nagdanais talaga din ng kapayapaan. At salamat din, General Cuerpo, for highlighting the role also of LUMAD dito sa mga mabibigat na issue natin ng gera at saka kapayapaan. So sir, muli salamat po. Advanced congratulations. Mabuhay po kayo. And my snappy salute. Salamat sir at salamat Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Colonel. Thank you, Senator. Senator,
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
meron pa po ba tayong ano?
Meron pa po sana kung maaari, Mr. Chairman.
Pwede po.
Salamat po, Mr. Chairman. Again, just one question po for Colonel Nonilon Lawas, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Salamat, Mr. Chairman. Magandang umaga po, Colonel Lawas. Sir, nababasa ko po dito sa profile ninyo that you were honored with a Silver Cross Medal this year for, among others, the success of the Maritime Patrol and aerial reconnaissance over the West Philippine Sea, withstanding challenges presented by the Chinese Coast Guard. At na yung impormasyon po na nakalap ng inyong team excuse me, ay ginamit bilang vital material and evidence ng ating bansa sa paghahain ng protesta sa pag-ani ng China ng mga giant clams sa Scarborough or Panatag Shoal. So ang nag-iisang tanong ko po sa inyo, Colonel Lawas, maaari niyo po bang ibahagi sa aming komite yung karanasan ninyo regarding itong Maritime Patrol and Aerial Reconnaissance over the West Philippine Sea? Ano pong mga specific challenges ang pinresenta ng Chinese Coast Guard? At ano pa yung kailangan natin para ma-overcome itong mga hamong ito? Lastly, ano na rin po yung status ng protesta natin ito sa China? Colonel, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair and the good Senator, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Actually, that our mom is, we were, as mentioned, there were 4 others. It happened last year, ma'am. While on Maritime Patrol along Bahod Masinloc, we were challenged 9 times.
Wow.
By the Chinese vessel or the Chinese Coast Guard, and we were forced to leave our territory at Bahod Masinloc, and the Philippine Air Force pilot is replying, or our protocol reply to our Maritime Patrol that we are having our routine patrol within our maritime domain. Specifically, I am the member of Northern Luzon Command during the time. So we were as what I've said, we were challenged 9 times, and
our reply, sir, ma'am, on sirs, is we are doing our routine patrol within our maritime domain. That's all, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, with the permission of Senator Ontiveros.
Yes, please, Senping.
I thought Senator Ontiveros mentioned Silver Cross Medal. Is there such a medal? Ang alam ko, Gold Cross, then Bronze Cross. Of course, Medal of Valor, Distinguished Conduct, Distinguished Service, Gold Cross, Bronze Cross, Military Merit. Pero bang nabigyan ka man ng Silver Cross Medal?
Yes, sir.
Is there such a new medal now?
Yes, sir.
Kailan nag-start ito? Mukhang hindi ako familiar eh. Just for my education. Silver Cross Medal. Parang bago sa akin. J1?
Yes, sir.
Meron? Silver Cross Medal after Gold
Yes.
Cross?
Yes, sir. I think this medal was created in lieu of the intelligence operation, sir. Kasi noon ang binibigay mga Bronze Cross Medal for intelligence operation. However, the Army recommended for another medal, which is the Silver Cross Medal, that will address on, I think, intelligence matters, sir. Intelligence related accomplishments, sir.
So, this has become part of the AFPR already?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Correct, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for the enlightenment. Thank you.
Thank you po.
Salamat, Mr. Chairman. Salamat, Senator Ping. At so muli, advance congratulations, or rather advance congratulations, Colonel Lawas, pati para sa pagiging baka isa sa mga unang tumanggap nitong karangalang Silver Cross Medal. Mabuhay po kayo and may snappy salute. Salamat po, sir. Salamat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, may I pose a question also to Colonel Roy Anthony Derilo?
Go ahead po.
Yes, ma'am.
Salamat, Mr. Chairman. Magandang umaga po, Colonel Derilo.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, sir. Actually, sir, arguably yung profile nyo yung pinaka nag-catch ng mata ko para sa hearing ngayong umaga. Dahil bukod sa pagbanggit na na-confer kayo ng Distinguished Service Star Medal sa 2018, Silver Cross Medal din sa 2019, at ngayong taon yung Meritorious Achievement Medal, meron pong nakasulat dito na he is reputed to be a progressive thinker and an idealist. Napalagay ko po, Colonel Derilo, Mr. Chairman, ay ilan sa mga katangian that should be most prized. Hindi lang po sa isang Armed Forces Senior Officer, hindi lang po sa isang government worker, pero sa mamamayang Pilipino. So, my single question to you, Colonel Derilo, is sa tingin nyo po, in what way, o alin po yung mga sa tingin nyo ay pinaka-progresibong mga ideya nyo bilang isang senior military officer? Paano nyo masasabing idealist kayo? I really love reading such language kasi I consider that kahit nasa middle years na ako, that I still retain a lot of the idealism of my youth, as I'm sure is true for many, if not all of the members of our committee. So, yun po, yun lang po yung single question ko po sa inyo, Colonel Derilo. Ano po ang sa tingin nyo pinaka-progresibong ideya nyo at mga paano nyo rin masasabing idealist kayo bilang isa sa ating mga senior military officers? Colonel, Mr. Chairman.
Colonel, before you answer, we would like to recognize the presence of
Sure.
Senator Franklin Drilon. Go ahead, Colonel.
Thank you, ma'am, for the opportunity and for recognizing this
those things in my profile. If I'm going to make it short, it's really the idealism there is really more on to be drawn up from the experience as a scout ranger. I've been since I graduated in PMA, I was assigned with the scout ranger. You know, the job of the scouting is really find, fix, and finish, find, fix, and finish. And I've been through a lot, and no longer believe totally of destroy, find, fix, finish, destroy. And with those experience that I'm so passionate with, I went to even the point of going out of the service because I'm not happy anymore with. I've been with the Rangers in Colo, Basilan, and all. And then luckily I had this opportunity when I was about to go out to prepare myself. I studied Master's Development Management at Asian Institute of Management from out of my pocket and solicitations, and I was able to prepare myself to go out. But then the school, and actually the school, what happened, the school, the Development Management course in AIM turned me around because of the tools I learned there, developmental. And with the military, I saw how the organization was doing. And then I saw the social lens I got from the school, management school, and my passion to really, at the end of the day, I'm a soldier. I want to go back. I want to change my organization. I want to contribute to reforming my organization to see society in a better perspective, in a more developmental perspective. So long before it was Bayanihan or Plan Bayanihan under President Nani Aquino, and long before, of course, this NTF LCAC, I was already talking about whole of nation approach, developmental approach, and I was given the chance later on to become the battalion commander, where I really exercise what I learned, and so surrenderies by the hundreds in the battalion. I was able to neutralize through combat a few, and I'm not happy with that, but that is few NPA, but more on I'm proud surrenderies. The Dumad especially, helping them rebuild their confidence over the government. They came up with bakery for the women, organized the women. I think my responsibility in how the wounded, broken, such left him then in the continuous operation. So, and one of my soldiers, the team leader, died, and my soldiers, all of them unanimously wants to get back at the wounded NPA they are carrying. I told them that we have to save his life. It's a responsibility. The heaviest responsibility there is really how to, if I'm going to order to get even and kill that NPA, what will become of my younger officers with the decision, maybe paglaki nila, pag maging colonel sila, kung ano nakita nila sa akin, patay, hindi tayo matatapos. And many things, and I think I'm glad the province, I think I was able to turn around the security space in the province by not really, by combining the things that I learned. Especially now, I'm so glad we have this whole of nation where we are being helped, the military is being helped by other sectors and other branches of the government through the National Task Force ELCA. Thank you. I could not boast any of the reasons. It's really just about experience and really wanting to contribute and change. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
Very much. Colonel Berilo, at maraming salamat din po, Mr. Chairman. Yung sinabi po ni Colonel na learning to not totally destroy, I guess we would hear that from warriors na habang nagmamature sila. So it always gives me hope after armed forces or even Philippine police senior officers. Yung sinabi po ni Colonel, not just once but twice, about passion. So nakakatuwa rin kapag umaabot sa senior rank yung ating mga opisyal or tayong lahat pag umaabot sa middle years, and yet we can still speak of passion about the things we love, the things we fight for. Palagay ko yun yung Yun yung energy natin for a marathon life and work. And natuwa rin po ako binanggit ni Colonel Derilo yung Masters in Development Management dahil yun din yung isang pag-aaral na isagawa nung late husband ko noon. Yung pagbigay niya ng pansin dun sa social lens, kahit ng ating armed forces at defense establishment, sa usapin ng national development, yung pagtampok niya sa Oplan Bayanihan, binanggit din niya yung NTF-LCAC, although probably kami po ni Colonel Derilo ay may magkaibang opinion tungkol dyan. But it's always good to have this frank exchange of So maraming salamat talaga, Colonel Derilo, sa pagpapaunlak niyo sa tanong kong iyan. It may have sounded more personal, but as you showed in your response to the committee, napaka-professional din nung substance niya, saka yung significance niya. And as a legislator, these are always one of the moments I treasure most dito sa aming mga commission on appointments, committee hearings, na makapagpalitan ng ganitong insights at saka prinsipyo sa mga kapwa manggagawa sa gobyerno. So maraming salamat po sa inyo, Colonel Derilo, and my heartfelt congratulations, mabuhay po kayo, and my snappy salute. Salamat po, sir. Salamat, Mr. Chairman.
Salamat po, salamat, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Honor.
Sir. Mr. Chair, if I may, to my second to the last na lang, question, Mr. Chairman, if I still may.
Go ahead po.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pwede po bang isang tanong kay Colonel Kim Eric Agatep?
Go ahead po.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Magandang, well, halos tanghali na, pero magandang umaga pa rin po, Colonel Agatep.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. I'm actually sorry that I have to ask this question of you, sir, because I'm sure it could not have been a painless process. But I also believe I need to ask it and to give you the chance to address the question dahil sigurado kong malamang naging painful din yung process na ito para sa complainant, no? Isang kabaro ko, kapwa babae. Nabasa ko po sa profile ninyo that you were a respondent in a criminal case for acts of lasciviousness for allegedly forcefully grabbing the complainant's face, forcefully kissing her, and touching her right breast while she was alone in the female crew room in the Mactan Air Base. This case was dismissed provisionally and subsequently dismissed based on Section 8, Rule 117 of the Revised Penal Court. The profile goes on to say that you were found guilty of the administrative case arising from the same complaint and were meted the penalty of 6 months and 1 day suspension from the service without pay. The Ombudsman affirmed this decision and denied the respondent's motion for reconsideration. However, the good colonel filed a petition for review before the CA, which was granted, and set aside the June 12 decision and the January 2012 order on the grounds of forum shopping. In effect, you no longer have any pending criminal or administrative case in connection to the aforementioned acts complained of. So my single question, Colonel Agatep, for the benefit of the men and women of the armed forces here in our country, is there anything that you would like to say about these old cases to our committee? Moving forward, dahil nagkakaisa po tayo sa pangarap na ang Armed Forces of the Philippines ay less and less hanggang sa araw na hindi na magkakaroon ng ganitong mga reklamo o kaso at maging isa siyang institusyon na nagtataguyod talaga ng paggalang sa karapatan pareho sa mga babae at lalaki sa loob ng AFP at anuman din ang kanilang inyong sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, Colonel, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am. Before that thing happened, ma'am, I think I misread the closeness of our relationship with regards to that soldier. And it so happened that she was under a senior officer. So actually, in my own assessment, she was forced to file the complaint against me. And also, when I said that I miscalculated the closeness of our relationship because we are members of a crew in a in an aircraft. So when sometimes we kid around and everything about any issues. So I think that's the reason, ma'am, that I was subjected to that accusation.
Thank you, Colonel Agatep, sa inyong candor in addressing this difficult question sa aming komite. Indeed, ang hirap din yung mga posibleng misreading ng closeness or distance, lalo na kapag may kidding around involved in a professional setting. Siguro alam naman nating lahat yun yung mga difficult issues na hinaharap natin sa iba't ibang mga advocacies at movements ngayon kasama nung ano ba ito? I'm forgetting the name of that, yung Me Too movement, saka yung mga no means no, etc. And I'm sorry to hear na there was the possibility na yung aking fellow woman was forced to file the complaint under the senior officer. Kung ano man yung buong katotohanan in broad strokes at nuances ng kasong iyon, I really hope that there will be closure for you, dahil the good colonel, dahil nga sa current status ng dalawang kasong iyon. I also hope na para sa kabaro ko, yung fellow woman, that na mapanatag din ang loob niya, that there was that measure of truth and justice in the cases, and para sa kabuuan ng armed forces moving forward sa ilalim ng collective leadership ninyong mga senior military officials, na yun na nga po, na darating yung araw na hindi na magkakaroon ng ganitong mga reklamo at kaso dahil magiging totoong realidad na sa loob at labas ng AFP ay natatanggal na natin yung ganitong mga reklamo o kaso ng sexual harassment. So maraming salamat, Colonel Agatep, sa pagpapaunlak nyo sa salamat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, Colonel.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chair, just a last question, if I may, to one last officer.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Salamat, Mr. Chairman. Para sa huling single question ko, para kay Colonel Arthur Romanillos.
longtime friend of the United States. We still have uh, to sustain that good relationship with with the United States of America in order to uh, improve more our armed forces as we are on our headway to improving on our uh, external defense capabilities as um, we are about to emerge victorious over our internal establish a more credible defense posture uh, against uh, external aggressors. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colonel Romanillos, at salamat din po, Mr. Chairman. I agree that we need to sustain good relations even with our former colonizer, but with old allies in the region and in the world. At the same time, to achieve good relations with the regional power and emerging global power, China, on the basis of mutual respect, kasi hindi naman tayo pabubuli sa sarili nating karagatan. So to achieve good relations with her in a rules-based order, and both of these and good relations with all countries in the region and the world bilang bahagi po ng ating independent and interdependent foreign policy. So salamat po, Colonel Romanillos, for highlighting those important elements. Advanced congratulations po sa inyo. Mabuhay po kayo, and my snappy salute as well. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair. Just as a last brief manifestation, I just like to make of record also that gusto ko lang pong bigyan ng pansin yung isa pa sa mga opisyal na ating kinukumpirma ngayong araw. I heard about Air Force Colonel Oliver Banyaria. Wonderful things, that he is a true gentleman, an excellent officer, and a very efficient planner. So just to make that of record, Mr. Chairman, that it seems we have really outstanding individuals dito po sa grupo na ating dinidinig ngayong araw. And in advance, through the good chairman, I'd like to express to all the officers here today my advanced congratulations. Mabuhay po kayo, and my snappy salute to each and every one of you. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Risa. Senator Francis Tolentino.
Mr. Chairman, just one last question. With the permission of the Senate President and Senator Lacson, can we have Colonel Johannes Dimaano? You just stand up there. No need to approach the table. I will just need your hand signals. When a pilot, before he rolls on the runway, takes off, he will rev up the engine. Thereafter, he will check the gauges. Thereafter, he will check all the navigational instruments, including a GPS or a Garmin, if there is any. So I will just need your hand signal, General Dimaano. Your records will show that you belong to class 1992, Tanglao Diwa. Can we have that hand signal? Thumbs up. And is it still your affirmation that class 1992, with the permission of Senator Lacson, is still the best class ever produced by the Philippine
Better be careful.
Army? You have your hand signal? Thank you, General Dimano. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Tolentino. Thank you, Colonel. Any other member who wish to question or have a manifestation to our nominees and appointees? There being none, Majority Leader.
Mr.
Order,
Chair,
please.
I move that the committee recommends to the plenary for the confirmation of 44 ad interim appointments and to give its consent to 8 nominations of senior officers in the armed forces of the Philippines. I so move, Mr. Chair.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is hereby approved. Congressman Pancho.
Mr. Chair, there being no other matters to discuss, I move to adjourn the meeting.
On motion of the acting majority leader, hearing no objection, the meeting is hereby adjourned. Congratulations po sa inyo lahat.
I thought. Okay na. The 10th plenary session of the Commission on Appointments in the second regular session of the 18th Congress is hereby called to order. Let us all pause for a minute of silent prayer. Please remain standing for the singing of the Philippine National Anthem.
Bayang magiliw, pelas ng silanganan, hanap ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka lang magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisiin, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong baga. May dilagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagriningning. Ang bituing at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw na ipagsinta, huli langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga api, napatay ng dahil sa'yo.
The Secretary will please call the roll.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The honorable members of the Commission on Appointments. Advincula,
Present.
Almario, Alvarez Jr., Cargas, Viteco Jr.,
Present.
Drilon,
Present.
Ferrer de Fort, Heron, Go,
Present.
Montiveros,
Present.
Lacson, Marcos,
Present.
Noel, Pancho,
Present.
Pimentel III,
Present.
Poe,
Present.
Ramirez Sato,
Present.
Revilla Jr., Tolentino, Villanueva, Villar,
Present.
Zamora,
Present.
Subiri. The chairperson is present.
With 3 members physically present and 15 online for a total of 18, the chair declares the presence of the existence of a quorum. Majority Leader?
Mr. Chair, I move to dispense the reading of the journal of the plenary session held on November 19, 2020 and consider the same as approved.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Journals approved.
Mr. Chair, may we now
Vice
proceed with
Chairman,
the
before we proceed, may we recognize the Vice Chairman? There is a manifestation, I understand, from the Vice Chairman of the Commission. Congressman or Representative Ronaldo Zamora is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We have been informed that Congressman Benjamin Agarao has been replaced in the Commission on Appointments, and he is leaving one position, that position being Assistant Majority Floor Leader. In this connection, Mr. Chairman, may I move that we now elect Congressman Gavini Apple C. Pancho of the 2nd District of Bulacan as Assistant Majority Floor Leader. I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Any objection? There being none, the manifestation of the Vice Chairman of the Commission, and therefore Congressman Gabini Pancho of the 2nd District of Bulacan is hereby designated and as Assistant or Acting or Assistant Majority Leader for today's plenary session. Approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The Majority Leader.
Mr. Chair, I move to dispense with the reading of the journal of the plenary session held on November 19,
I think-
2020, and consider the same as approved.
I think we've already done that. Let's proceed with the next
Yes,
item on the
Mr.
agenda.
Chair. Yes. Mr. Chair, may we now proceed to consider the recommendation of the Committee on Foreign Affairs on the nomination and ad interim appointment of 2 officials in the Department of Foreign Affairs.
Any objection? Hearing none, the consideration of the recommendation of the Committee on Foreign Affairs is in order.
Mr.
Majority
Chair,
Leader.
yes, Mr. Chair, I move that the chairperson of the Committee on Foreign Affairs, Senator Pamphilo M. Lacson, be recognized.
Senator Pamphilo Lacson is hereby recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, distinguished members of the Commission on Appointments, this representation as Chairman of the Committee on Foreign Affairs presided over a public hearing this morning to deliberate on the nomination of 1 ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary and the ad interim appointment of 1 Foreign Service Officer Class 1 of the Department of Foreign Affairs. Your committee, after deliberating on their qualifications and fitness during the public hearing, determined that they are fit and qualified to be in the posts where they are nominated and appointed, and therefore ruled to recommend to the plenary their appointments for the consent and approval of the body. Mr. Chairman, it is my honor and privilege to recommend that the committee give its consent to the nomination of Ambassador Jose Eduardo Enciso Malaya III. Our nominee started his diplomatic career in 1985. Through the years, he has gained his reputation as a professional, tactful, and highly competent Foreign Service officer. He assumed significant posts as Assistant Secretary and Foreign Affairs spokesperson from September 2006 to February 2007, and again from February 2009 to September 2011. He also played key roles overseas, performing diplomatic missions in New York, USA, Brussels, Belgium, San Francisco, USA, and Chicago, USA, and in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. 2 offices he had received the department's Best Organization Award in successive years, the DFA Office of Legal Affairs in 2012, and the Philippine Embassy in Kuala Lumpur in 2013. Since April 2019, he has served as the Undersecretary for Administration of the DFA, where he has been notably known for implementing innovations such as adequate staffing in consular heavy or hardship embassies in the Middle East and Africa. Amid the COVID-19 pandemic, he has also served as the chairperson of the DFA Epidemic Response Committee, which measures reportedly minimize the infection rate among Foreign Service personnel and clientele. Mr. Chairman and distinguished colleagues, it is my privilege and honor to recommend to this august body to give its consent to the appointment of Ambassador Jose Eduardo Enciso Malaya III as Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary to the Kingdom of the Netherlands with the rank and emoluments of a Chief of Mission Class 1. I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Francis Tolentino is recognized.
Just a manifestation of support, Mr. Chair. As I mentioned a few hours ago, this is perhaps the most sensitive diplomatic post insofar as the Department of Foreign Affairs is concerned. And after grilling the nominee, I called from him 4 important questions which he answered positively. One, that he will project the real human rights situation in the Philippines in The Hague. Number 2, that he will liaison, backdoor or whatever with the personalities coming from the National Democratic Front in Utrecht, the Netherlands. Number 3, that he will protect the Filipino seafarers in Rotterdam, Netherlands. And number 4, he will protect the arbitral ruling we got from the court in the Netherlands. I support the nomination and confirmation of Ambassador Malaya. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, Senator Lacson.
Mr. Chairman, I likewise recommend to the Commission the confirmation of the ad interim appointment of Mr. Ricarte Belisario Abejuela III to the rank of Foreign Service Officer Class 1. I so move, Mr. Chairman.
So the motion of the chairman is for both the Ambassador Malaya and Foreign Service Officer Abejuela. Any objections? The chair hears none. Let's approve first Ambassador Malaya.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And the Foreign Service officer is here? Abidjan.
He's already posted, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Hearing no objection, approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Chair, may we now proceed to consider the recommendation of the Committee on National Defense of the nominations and ad interim of appointments of 52 senior officers in the Armed Forces of the Philippines.
Any objection? Hearing none, the consideration of the recommendation of the Committee on National Defense is in order. Majority Leader.
Mr. Chair, I move that the chairperson of the Committee on National Defense, Representative Luis John A. Ferrer IV, be recognized.
Representative John Ferrer IV is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, esteemed colleagues, as chairman of your Committee on National Defense, it is my distinct honor and privilege to sponsor today the confirmation of the ad interim appointments and consent to the nominations of 52 officers of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. This morning, your committee conducted a public hearing to deliberate on these ad interim appointments and nominations. After a thorough deliberation and scrutiny, your committee found them not wanting fitness, competence, and integrity, and found their qualifications to be sufficient. It has been determined by your committee that the said 52 senior officers are all fit and qualified to be promoted to the ranks where they are appointed, and therefore ruled to recommend to the plenary the confirmation of the ad interim appointments, and the commission gives its consent to the nominations of the following 52 officers in the Armed Forces of the Philippines.
All right. Before you proceed for the first motion, the chair just noticed something. The 3 virtual members of the CA who are present are all from Cavite.
Yes, boss.
What does that mean? Anyway, go ahead, Representative Ferrer.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Chair. First on the list is Ramil Roberto B. Enriquez to the rank of Vice Admiral.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Bartolome Vicente O. Bacaro, the rank of Major General.
Any objection? Chair hears none, approved.
Eugenio V. Hernandez to the rank of Major General.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Wilbur C. Mamawa to the rank of Brigadier General.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Jose H. Narciso to the rank of Brigadier General.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Jerry E. Puluhanan to the rank of Brigadier General.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Lito D. Villanueva to the rank of Brigadier General.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Jose Maria R. Cuerpo II to the rank of Brigadier General.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Romulo A. Manuel Jr. to the rank of Brigadier General.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Joannis Leonardi B. Di Maano to the rank of Brigadier General.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Rogelio D. Ulanday to the rank of Brigadier General.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Arman G. Mampusti to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Victorino C. Patricio to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Kim Eric Alexander D. Agatep to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Ferdinand P. Romano to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Nestor A. Etis to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Emilito T. Lucero to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Augusto N. Padua, the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force.
Colonel Padua was the roommate and upperclassman of my nephew-in-law, Captain Raymond de Guzman, who died in a plane crash while on duty. And Colonel Padua was one who helped in finding the body of Raymond. That was in 2002. Any objection will not be entertained. Approved.
Thank you, Colonel. Gilbert T. Esteban Jr. to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Jose Tadeo M. Javier II, the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Oliver A. Banyaria to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Marvel C. Sabellion to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Ronaldo L. Zaragoza to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Carlito P. Lingad Jr. to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Air Force.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Harold M. Argamosa to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Luciano M. Cayman Jr. to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Arthur M. Romanillos Jr. to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Gaspar B. Panopio to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Arnel B. Bautista to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Randy N. Espino to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Jonathan P. Obena to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Richard B. Rabaca to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Jacob Tadeus M. Obligado to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Glenjoy U. Ainera to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Eufrasio G. Malig Jr. to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Erickson V. Rosana to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Isaklolo H. Deroy Jr. to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Vince James D. Bantilan to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Tommy A. Deliva to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Wendell J. Basat to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Carlo Franco A. Pimentel to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Norberto L. Agbay to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Eduardo M. Monhardin to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Roy Anthony O. Terillo to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Estevain E. Dupusin to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Nonilon P. Lawas to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Fernando B. Dulawan to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Ramilo B. Trinidad to the rank of Captain, Philippine Navy.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Noel E. Buncab to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Navy Marines.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Gregory Gerald V. Fabic to the rank of Captain, Philippine Navy.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Bienvenido F. Simon Jr. to the rank of Colonel or of Professors.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
And Hilarion G. Palma to the rank of Colonel, Philippine Army.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Approved.
That is all, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Ferrer. Majority Leader?
There being no other matters to discuss, I move to adjourn.
Any objection? Hearing none. The session is hereby adjourned.